This session is an orientation to the TAMS software. During this session, we will explore various general capabilities of the tool, navigating, accessing help, and the general behavior of the tool to familiarize with the user with common actions and capabilities. So we begin with a login screen, and upon logging in, the user is presented with a search form for the clients that are contained in the database. This search form is typical of several other search forms that are also available in TAMS. If there are scheduled tasks that are have a reminder set and are ready to be reviewed or acted upon, a reminder window will open up with a list of those tasks which should be acted upon by the user which has logged in. For now, we will not concern ourselves with the scheduler. That is covered under another video session. So we will close the reminder window and familiarize ourselves with the general layout of the TAMS forms. First, we'll focus on the Explorer bar, which is on the left-hand side of most of the forms in TAMS. The form that we are on is identified in two places. One underneath the logo, where this form is identified as the Search for Client Name form, and also at the blue bar at the top of the window that also indicates that it is the Search for Client Name form. Underneath of the logo and identity of the form that we are on, there are some search tips which are specific to each field or form that you are placed on. Those are quick tips to help guide the user, particularly during their initial training of the tool, to help understand what a particular form, action, or field input is expected. Underneath the search tips is another section which are a list of the form actions which are available. On this particular form, we can create a new client by clicking on the new link. Notice that when we position our cursor over the link, we get a new cursor to indicate that it is a link that can be acted on. We can clear our search criteria. We can show all of the clients in the search window. We can request details for a selected client, and we can close the form. Typically, the action that is taken is to select a specific client that you're interested in working on, and clicking on the details action. An alternative approach to save time is to double-click on a single item, and it will open more details in a drill-down fashion about that particular client. So if we double-click on the demo client, we will open up the client details form. Similarly, if we close this form and we click on demo client and click details, the same result occurs. To search when there are a significant number of clients, the search criteria allows you to filter out those clients which meet a specific criteria. So we can begin by looking for words that clients that have the word client in their name, and then clicking the search button. And you'll notice that only those with the word client in there. If we want to show all, we can revert to showing all clients, or we can also clear the search criteria and clear the list and then show all again. So this is a typical search form. This search form is also the same type of form that is used when searching for suppliers. Notice there's a menu bar across the top of the display. And from these menu bar are trees, a series of actions which can be taken underneath each of these menu items, and we will explore these in further detail later. So the search for supplier form, again indicated by the title at the top, it operates in the same fashion as the search for clients. And there are also search for users to include new users into the tool, and this is an administrative function which is beyond the scope of this training. So when a form is opened, a new form name is listed at the top and underneath the logo, but the form which was navigated from is also available, and it can be accessed through the Windows drop-down. So you can quickly jump between multiple forms which are still active. Forms remain active until they are closed, either by clicking the close icon in the upper right-hand corner, which is only going to close there are two series of X's, one to close the individual form and one to close the entire application. Because these are so closely located to each other, it is recommended to not close forms in this fashion, rather to use the close form action on the under the form actions. So when a form is closed, and we can continue to drill down and get additional details on the client, we can continue to open up additional forms, so that now by drilling down onto a specific location for a client with more than one location, we find that we have 3 forms available that we can navigate to. And when we are on a particular form and we close it, it will navigate us back to the previous form that we had active. So it's very similar to a back function in a browser. The forms can also be viewed by restoring the windows into individual windows, and they can be viewed at your discretion by rearranging them, resizing them individually, shrinking them down on the canvas of the main program. However, it is recommended to leave them in a full screen mode. So you can also cascade the windows at your discretion by using the Windows drop-down menu and selecting Cascade. However, it is recommended that the forms be left in full screen mode and navigated to when necessary to jump between the available forms. Once a form is open and it is left open for a given set of information, in this case for a specific client, if you return to open a separate client, then only one copy of any given form remains open at any point in time. This prevents a proliferation of windows so that you do not end up with 20 or 30 open windows to try to sort through. It will refresh the open form with new data. So now the client details has been opened with the Canadian client. We only have one copy. If we revert back to the demo client, we still only have one copy of the client details form, now populated with the demo client information. Okay. We also, to facilitate the navigation between forms, there are what are known as quick links. Quick links are typically available from a form that has information on it, which refers to information that provides more detail on another form. So in this example, we have navigated to a service account for a given client, and we can perform a right mouse click on a particular item, and we are given a choice of options that are relevant and they're context sensitive, so that relevant to the information that we're clicking on, it will provide a series of options, and we can go and explore more information. So in this particular case, we have a service account which identifies a carrier that a client has an account with, and they have multiple lines with multiple service on this account. And if we want to explore more information about their local toll service, we can right-click, bring up the context-sensitive menu, and navigate directly to a form that includes more details about the local toll plan on that particular line. So these quick links are very convenient in order to navigate around TAMS. The quick links can take you to various forms, and we will show what the form layout is for you to become familiar with, and it is documented in help. But as you can see, we can navigate to a line details to get information about a specific phone number and the services on that phone number and what the history is of any given service. In addition to exploring existing data and navigating between forms, there's always the need to add new data. So adding new data can consist of clicking on a new form action, which will open up, in this case, a new client, and we can enter some information into the field. Notice that the form details is indicating what the field that we're positioned in is a required field, identifies the maximum length of the field, and some of the fields are self-explanatory. But in this particular case, we will add a client. We will put on an address. And it is always best when adding information to include as much information as possible at the time that it is being added. The reason is that some information can be carried forward to other forms to help reduce the redundant data entry. So we will begin with some information here that you will see how this information is used in is reused by the tool to populate information, so that it is not necessary for the end user to type it in a second time. So we'll finish typing in some information for this new client that we're generating. And we will save this information in order to save this record. All information which is edited or added is not stored in the database until it is saved. If you try to close a form without saving information, you are prompted whether you would like to save changes or not. You can say yes, and it will save and close your form. You can say no, and it will discard your changes and close the form. Or you can cancel and review what you have done before making a decision. So we will save this form, and when saved, notice that there is a status bar at the bottom of the form which provides customer feedback, user feedback about what action has been taken. So be attentive to the information in the status bar to guide you on actions and the results that you expect. Notice that some of the forms are multi-tab forms. So in this particular form, the client details, it has a series of 7 tabs across the top. And this is a way of providing additional information that's specific to this client. And underneath of these tabs, there may be additional information that you can navigate to explore further details about the client. The TAMS architecture is based on a hierarchical top-down structure, which allows you to go further and further into the details of a client so that you can explore multiple locations, multiple accounts, and within each location or account, what lines and services are available, and what the plans are and the cost of those plans, and the history of the changes of those plans. So on the client details, we have the general information, a general notes tab, which allows you to capture any other information that does not have a field designed specifically for a purpose. A listing of all of the locations of a client, and notice that we already have one location listed, and we will drill down to look at this, and it can be done by either double-clicking with the black arrow next to one of the location descriptions, or by selecting one and then viewing location. Now notice that we can add another location by clicking a button here, which will add a second location. But we cannot add from the form actions a new location. We can create a new client from this form, but we cannot add a new location from the form actions. So we will just explore this initial location that was created when we saved our client, and notice that this initial location has echoed the original client main contact information and address. So every client will automatically will have a location created for it, and it will echo that information. By the virtue of adding that information at the time that it was created, this information has been echoed and repeated here without us having to re-enter it manually. So this is one example of why entering as much information as possible as soon as possible is beneficial to make the users as productive and efficient as possible. There are a number of fields here that we will cover in another session regarding the use of those fields and their how they are used throughout the tool and through various reporting capabilities, and analysis capabilities. So when we close this form, we will return back to the client details, and there's a tab for service accounts. So initially, a new client will not have any service accounts listed, and it's our task to identify those accounts and populate them accordingly. Similarly, the service accounts will cover all landline and data services. There is a separate tab for cellular accounts, which would be for their cellular and wireless devices. There's a process management tab, which pertains to the contractual agreements with the specific client and what services have been provided in our process, what milestones we have achieved with that client, and many of the dates that are listed here are to capture when we have achieved a certain milestone with a client. And finally, a tab for generating invoices to be able to bill clients for savings or hourly billable time. Again, the details of this form will be discussed at a later time. So we will return to the client name. We will close some of the other forms that we have just as a matter of cleanup. And we have demonstrated how to navigate between forms, how to use the quick links to navigate to forms, how to add new levels of detail, and viewing and editing and saving that detail. One of the more powerful aspects of TAMS is a capability that can only best be described as an Excel spreadsheet on steroids, and they are known as grids. And in TAMS, we will open a form that has one of these grids available on it and demonstrate what the capabilities are that these grids provide. So you'll know this is a typical grid which shows all of the history of a given account. In this example, this is an account that is the optimized account that this demo client hypothetically had its toll-free, local toll and long-distance services moved to in order to save our clients money. So we may find that some clients have more than one location, and we may want to look at information that is grouped or sorted in a particular fashion. So when a grid is available, the first thing that can be done is to sort by clicking on the column headers. Notice that some column headers may by default already be sorted through the indication of an up arrow or down arrow on the right-hand side of the column header. If it is an up arrow, then that column is sorted in ascending order. If it is a down arrow, it is sorted in descending order. To change the sorting, you can click on a single column and change the sort order. So you notice that this entire table is now sorted by DN in descending order. We can click it a second time and sort it in ascending order. Once we have sorted a column by a particular field, then we can continue to do subsorts, because many times the information in a particular column may repeat for multiple due to multiple entries. For example, we will first sort on service type, and we will see that there are 10 phone numbers at the main location. Actually, in this case, there are only 9, because one of the numbers no longer exists, or two of the numbers no longer exist, so that would be 8 phone numbers in this particular local toll for the main location. There are also 4 numbers at a satellite location which also have local toll. So we can sort first by service type, and then by holding the shift key down and clicking a second column, we can subsort so they're still sorted first by local toll, and then we can sort a secondary time by holding the shift key and clicking another column, and again we can continue to hold that shift key down and change that secondary sort from ascending to descending. And we can continue to do this level of sorting as many times as desired. In addition to sorting, we may find that grouping the information is also useful. So we may first want to group the information by location, and in order to group, we can grab a header of a column and drag it to the space where it indicated in order to group by that header. So we have grouped them by location first, and automatically when grouping, the sorting occurs. Now, the sorting can be reversed by holding the shift key down and reversing the sort order. If a sort is no longer desired, then the control key can be held down and the header can be clicked, and it will remove that sorting from the sort order. So we can remove sorting, and we can add sorting at our discretion by the use of holding the shift or control key and clicking on column headers. So not only is multiple column sorting available, but multiple grouping is available. And this can be done by grabbing a second or third or additional layers of columns to the grouping area. And notice that we now have a drill down capability of being able to sort and group in any fashion desired. This makes it very flexible so that it can meet the needs of the user under a given set of circumstances. One configuration may be more desirable for one particular need, and another configuration would be a better fit for other needs. If we return to, notice that at the top of the window, we have a drop-down box in order to quickly select a separate service account for this demo client. We could return to the client details form where we started and then click a secondary account in order to view it. Or we have the quicker approach of just selecting the drop-down box and viewing that account directly while we're on the form without having to navigate around. Now, on this particular account, it represents a single location, and the various lines and services that were on this account. Notice that there's a change date and an end date. Every plan that is put into TAMS on any given service for any given line will be identified with the start date of when that plan became active on a line, and if it is ever updated to another plan or moved to another account, it will be given an end date. Any line service that does not have an end date is considered to continue indefinitely and to still be the active service on the account. So one convenient method of grouping on a account details form is to group by end date, and anything without an end date is considered to be active. So we can quickly identify which lines and services are still active on an account at any point in time, regardless of what the history of the account is. So grouping by end date and looking for those with none is a quick and easy way to identify the lines which are currently active and billing on an account. Now, the columns can also be resized. If there is information such as the plan name, you would like to see the entire name of the plan. If it's too short, you can position your cursor over and it will pop up with a tip. But you can double-click on the width to auto-size the column, and it will size it according to the longest plan name. And, of course, since they're grouped, we have some other longer plan names that were not visible originally, but now they are. So you can double-click the divider line between the columns to auto-size them. You can rearrange the order by grabbing and dragging and looking for the red arrows, which will indicate where, when you let go of the mouse button, where the new position of the column will be. So you can change the order and size of the columns. There's the ability to select rows of data and to operate on rows of data collectively rather than having to take an operation multiple times. So if we were to sort by local toll and we wanted to print out some information, we can click on one and hold the control button down and click on several others individually, or we can click on one and hold the shift button down and then do a block select by clicking on the last. So this block selection is very common. And then when we have a group that are selected, we can operate on that selection. So for example, in this grid, we have the ability to print the current view. And of course, the view can be customized. So when we go to print it, we're given some print options as to the orientation that we would like to print and what our margin preferences are, what letter size paper we're working with. And then we can select the printer. And when we click OK, we are given another dialog that allows us to identify whether we want to print all ranges or 1 to 4 pages or only the selected records. So once we identify which ones, what print set we would like to have, we're given a preview page. And in this case, you will see that there is just the set of records that we had wanted to view. Notice that the size of the display is scaled so that it will fit across the single width of paper, in which case you may see some columns, such as the DN, may not look proper. This is why the preview is presented, so that it can be customized to the end user's desires before printing. So we will return here, and one of the things that we can do is remove a column from our display. So in order to remove a column, we take it off the grid and with the mouse, drag it off until we see these circle with a slash through it, and release the mouse button, and it disappears. Again, we can change the date. We can resize the DN, the directory number column. We may want to remove a few other columns from our display that are not relevant. We maybe open up some of the other columns that are relevant. And at this point, we will change those columns to in this fashion, and then we will try to print again and review our preview. We have the selection listed, so we're going to maintain that setting. And now we can see that the full phone number, the sub-account, and all the information that we desire. So, and then it can be printed with the print icon to the printer after looking at the preview. So by selecting records, we have some control over operating on a block of items at once. Similarly, if we navigate over to the line details, some forms will indicate how many records have been selected. So in this particular grid of line details, it's showing all of the phone numbers that were associated with the main location. And we can click one record, and at the bottom status it says one record selected. If we select another one, it'll say 2 records selected. If we select a block of them, it'll show us 6 records are selected. And again, we can do things by operating on a block of records at once rather than having to edit each one individually. We'll explore how to edit a block of line details in another session. Okay, so in addition to printing, we also can take a grid and we can export it to Excel. And again, we can customize the layout to our desire, and when we select the export to Excel, it will provide us a save dialog in order to name and determine the location of where it's going to be saved. Finally, you may be curious what happens to the columns that have been removed from a display when customizing the column layout. In order to recover those columns or to add additional columns that are not part of the default when a form is opened, you can use a field chooser. The field chooser is very common in all of the grids in TAMS, and it provides a list of other columns that are not presently displayed. In order to display them, you select the column from the field chooser window, select where you would like that column to be placed, and then release the mouse button, and it will restore. So any columns which are removed can be restored by using the field chooser. And the field chooser can be closed. It will automatically close if you close the form. Okay, so this covers the functionality of the grids, which are common throughout TAMS. And in summary, the capabilities with them are that multiple column sorting, multiple column grouping, customizing column widths and the position, selecting multiple records, printing them, and exporting them to Excel. Now, one very useful aspect to TAMS is the context-sensitive nature of help. In order to access help, you can use the help menu and select help from the drop-down, or you can simply press F1 on any form. The help file in TAMS is context-sensitive, so it will automatically open up the help to the form that you are presently positioned on. So by since we started on the service account details form, the help opened up on the service account details section of help. Similarly, if we close help and we were to be on the client details form and we press F1, we're automatically taken to the client management for client details. Within the help, there is a navigation panel which contains 3 tabs. The first tab is a table of contents which you can use to navigate through the various help topics. The second is an index, and again, you can select and double-click on any topic in order to navigate to that section of help. And then the third is a keyword search, which is very useful, and will search all of the help and identify a list of topics which contain your keyword set of keywords. The help form themselves, this navigation panel can also be hidden in order to expand the contents of any given help topic, or you can click Show and bring the navigation panel back to the visibility. Okay, so with each form help, it shows a snapshot of the display, describes the general function of the form, and then goes down through a description of each of the tabs, and then within each tab what the information is that can be stored. You'll notice that within help there are hypertext links which will help you navigate within help to other areas of help to give you additional details, and we can navigate backwards to the help that we came from. So we designed help to be helpful, and you should refer to it anytime you have a question simply by pressing the F1 and seeing as your first reference if your questions can be answered there. Some of the most basic forms of help that are available is an overview of how TAMS works, and this will be covered in the next training video. But there are 2 other very useful topics under the Getting Started contents, and one is called a Form Navigation Layout. And this shows all of the forms that are available or necessary in TAMS in order to manage their landline services. Now, there's a counterpart to this navigation form for cellular. And it shows the menu tree that would be followed by a user. Let me hide that navigation pane. So it follows the general files menu structure of TAMS, where you have a file, edit, clients, and suppliers. These are the menus that are listed at the top of the form: file, edit, clients, suppliers, and so on. Underneath of those drop-down links, it shows the menu options which are available and how you can navigate to a specific form. It's very top-down, hierarchical in structure. The 2 main sections of the tree, the first one is the clients, and of course we start with searching for a client, which we've already reviewed. From there we can go down into the client details, which has general information about the client. And from the client details we can navigate further down to get information about each location, their address and which phone lines are associated, what type of phone equipment they have. And from that location we can get down to the individual line details. And the line details will identify the plans and rates that are on a given line for any given service and what the history of those rates look like. We also have explored the service account details, and that defines the billing accounts that they have with each supplier, and how often they get billed, what the amounts of those costs are. And then there are some further details down about those accounts and each billing cycle, how much usage there is. So you may notice that we have already explored most of these forms. Similarly with suppliers, there's a search form and then details for a given supplier, and then the details of the plans that they offer for the various services such as local, long distance, and toll-free, and so on. Finally, there is a reporting menu, which is discussed in a later video. There's administrations, which is not necessary to cover for the general user, and some tools, which are also covered in another training session. So these main forms compose the collection of areas that need to be operated on in order to optimize our clients. Okay, and one final information that is useful for this session is to also understand that we had already mentioned that those forms can be navigated to not just from a top-down fashion along those menu trees, but by quick links through the right mouse click and jumping from one form to another. So even though it's designed in a hierarchical fashion, you do not need to always follow the tree path in order to get from one form to another. There are some other productivity enhancers in the design of TAMS, and in particular one of them is anytime there is an email address, we can click on an email link in order to generate an email in a very quick fashion, which is addressed to the email address that was listed. And in this particular example, when I click on the email link, it automatically opens up my default email client application and addresses it and makes it ready for me to start composing an email to that individual. Notice that it's already set through Outlook to include my signature at the bottom of my email. Some emails by default will have additional information in them which are pertinent to the link that you're clicking on. So for example, if we go into a specific location and we go to the equipment tab, that shows what the type of equipment is at that location for the PBX and who their interconnect is that is responsible for programming and maintaining or making changes to that PBX. If we were to send a link to this interconnect contact, it would include in the body of the email additional information such as the line numbers and the order and purpose of those line numbers, so that they can be at the fingertips of the interconnect when they come out. So we will demonstrate this by clicking on the email link on the client location details for the interconnect, and notice that the email opens addressed to that person with a subject pre-populated that is a request for a given client at their specific location. It puts in the body, starts off with a salutation. The body of the work being requested would need to be entered by the end user, but it does then provide what the site contact and service address is, what their hours of access are, and what the lines are that are at the location. Notice that this information is drawn from other parts of this form or the details underneath it. So for example, it has the hours of access, it has the main customer contact information for that site, which would be such as the branch manager, and then the phone numbers that have been listed for this location. So the more information that is populated into TAMS makes other actions such as generating this email or doing other reports much more convenient and productive or efficient, so that this information does not need to be manually typed in every time. The other types of links that are available, which are most useful, is the ability to open up a email or a web site, and this is most prevalently used on a given account with a client when we want to gather information, when it's necessary to go and look at invoicing information for a client. On the service account details form and also on the cellular account details forms, we have a tab called Access Info. And that tab, well, is not populated in this particular account, so we'll go to another account, and we will go to this Verizon account. And notice there are actually two links. One link is the main supplier website, and this information is drawn from the supplier details for Verizon. So there's a web page link available on the supplier details form, and it is echoed on every supplier account that is created for that supplier. So again, adding information at a high level can be reused for more specific instances of that data at the lower levels. Furthermore, many providers have more than one portal depending on the size and nature of the services and the size of the client. They may have an enterprise portal, a small business portal, a mid-sized business portal. They'll have different portals for data services versus landline voice services and so on. So this specific account may have to have its own specific URL in order to access a login for that particular client and that client account. So we have the ability to customize this portal and then store the user ID and password, and if there's a PIN associated with it as well, all in one place for each account for every client. So this is very convenient, and all we need to do is click on the link that is listed in the now, of course, one of the challenges we have is that the carriers are continually changing their links, and so we need to kind of keep up with them, but it's easy enough to do once it is preserved in one user corrects this link. All other users of that account will have the benefit of getting the correct link. So we'll try a different link here. We'll try the main support link just to demonstrate how this would work. And perhaps we should try this link again. And now notice that we're at a portal for them and that they've changed their URL. This particular one may be a sign-in such as this page. And so we'll take this page and we'll update TAMS with that new information, and we'll save that. So if we close this web browser and we click on this link, it should take us to the small business login that would be necessary for this particular client. So this was a good demonstration as to the usefulness of why we can store this information in TAMS, and that the login ID can be copied and pasted. Of course, you can use the Control-C and Control-V shortcuts for copy and paste, or you can right-click on them, and we can copy that and put it here on their login. Remember, with dozens of locations and maybe scores of accounts and scores of clients, keeping track of these hundreds or thousands of logins would be very difficult without having it at your fingertips tied to a specific client and a client account. And since we need to go and gather data on an ongoing basis for at least 2 years, then it's just very convenient to have this available. So URL links will open up browsers, and also emails will open up template emails for specific purposes. Let's see. The last thing that I'll demonstrate is that if you are making an edit and you want to undo your edit, most of your fields will allow you to do a Control-Z or click undo, and that will change your edit. You also have an edit menu to copy and paste things, or you can use the right mouse click for these context-sensitive menus to copy, paste, and delete, or undo your changes. So these are the basics of navigating through TAMS, tabbing through the fields, using the form decals as a guide, how to access help, and just general capabilities of the tool.